Blackwood came awake with the sharpness of gunfire. Someone was in the room with him, someone he hadn't invited. Keeping his eyes closed, he stirred enough that he could slip his hand under the pillow and curl his fingers around the hilt of the knife resting there. "You do know it's the middle of the day, don't you?" Straightening his fingers again, Keating opened his eyes and sat up. In the near-total blackness of the room, he could just make out the dark figure walking to the nearest set of heavy, dark curtains. "Wait, don't." Blinding light filled the room. The sun seemed to spear directly into his skull and lodge there, thrumming. "God damn it, Benton," he growled, squeezing his eyes closed again. "What the devil are you doing here?" "Looking for you. I need your help." "Then close the bloody curtains and go sit in the drawing-room until I join you there." "Very well. That's a lovely black eye you're sporting, by the way." "You should see the other fellow." With a rustling of material, the room behind his eyelids darkened again. When he opened his eyes, blinding red dots still swam across his vision, but at least for the moment he didn't feel the pressing need to cast up his accounts. "And have Barnes fetch you a very large pot of tea," he added, pressing the heel of his hand against his temple. "I don't want tea." "I do. Go away." Once he was alone again in his bedchamber, Keating dug a shirt and trousers out of his wardrobe and shrugged into them. His boots were by the door, but he ignored them, just as he did the jacket and waistcoat Pigeon had laid out for him sometime yesterday. Sending a dubious glance at his door, he did pick up the freshly pressed cravat and knot it tightly around his forehead. If he was lucky, it might hold his brain inside his skull. God, he needed to stop drinking Russian vodka, or whatever it was he'd been imbibing last night. "Are you supposed to be a pirate?" Benton asked, as Keating made his way into the drawing-room with liberal help from the walls on either side of the hallway. "You might at least have put on slippers." "I don't own any." Keating limped over to the far window and closed the curtains, then sat opposite his cousin. "At the risk of sounding incredulous, why do you need my help? And make it quick, will you? I may pass out at any moment." "Why do I need your help?" Stephen Pollard, the Marquis of Fenton, repeated, eyeing him. "I know you've been avoiding London, but surely you've been reading the newspaper." "I'm avoiding London. Why the devil would I wish to read about it?" The tea tray arrived, and without being asked, Barnes poured a cup, dropped in 5 lumps of sugar, and carried it to him. "My thanks," he said to the butler, taking a long, slow swallow. "Why bother with the tea?" Benton asked, sitting forward to pour himself a cup and making a show of adding a solitary sugar. Ignoring the question, Keating sipped carefully at the too-hot, too-sweet brew. "I thought you didn't want any tea." His cousin looked down at the cup in his hand, then with a grimace set it aside. "I don't. I was attempting to make a point, I suppose, about sugar." "Yes, I noticed that. I was positively wounded by the jab." "The morning or midday after being 3 sheets to the wind, I would think sweet tea would do you in." "I've had a great deal of time and opportunity to experiment. Sweet tea helps, a little, occasionally." With a breath, he swirled the tea around in the full cup. "So do you actually wish to discuss tea, then?" Keating took another swallow, trying not to anticipate the dulling of the hollow chasm of pain in his skull. "No, I don't." "Good, because otherwise you've travelled a great distance for a very poor reason. Let's get to your point, shall we?" Fenton hung his hands between his knees. "Yes, of course. Do you remember Lord and Lady Montshire? The idiotic agreement they made with my parents?" Finally, Keating cracked a grin. "God, she's 21 now, isn't she? You getting the shivers over being leg-shackled to a chit you've never met? I suggest closing your eyes and thinking of England." "She's 22 now," the Marquis scowled. "The thing is, I actually enjoyed not spending the past 8 years having to court chits, foregoing all that wooing nonsense. What could be more convenient than just setting a date, going to the church, and then simply getting on with fathering an heir?" "You make domesticity sound exciting as a tombstone." More interested now despite himself, Keating kneaded a knuckle against his bruised eye. The swelling was going down a bit now. Yesterday he hadn't even